In a heated address to the United Nations Security Council, Russia's permanent ambassador, Vasily Nebenzia, delivered a scathing critique of the Western narrative on the Ukraine conflict, accusing Western countries of hypocrisy, manipulation, and fueling the conflict.
Those who really care about Ukraine and Ukrainians are persistently trying to find an effective way to resolve the Ukrainian crisis. I think they took note of the words of Mr. Borrell's from the beautiful European garden, that if the West stops pumping arms to the Kyiv regime, the conflict in Ukraine will be over in 2 weeks' time. Well spotted it is. No matter how much the Western sponsors of Kyiv try to present their assistance as a contribution to Ukraine's self-defense, it is obvious to any unbiased and sober-minded onlooker that without their malicious interference, the conflict would have ended long ago, or rather would not have started at all.
He pointed to a recent visit by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken to Kyiv, where Blinken was seen engaging in leisure activities.
Blinken was seen singing and dancing in a nightclub in Kyiv, having treated himself to some pizza in a nearby pizzeria, where the walls were decorated with neo-Nazi symbols and photographs.
Nebenzia highlighted that a significant portion of the recent U.S. military aid package to Ukraine benefits American defense contractors rather than Ukrainians.
About 50% of the $61 billion worth tranche allocated in April will be invested in the U.S. military industry.
The ambassador dismissed the effectiveness of advanced Western weaponry supplied to Ukraine, particularly criticizing the anticipated delivery of F-16 fighter jets. He referenced the destruction of other Western-supplied equipment by Russian forces.
It is obvious to military experts that there is no such wonderwaff that the West can hand over to Ukraine to reverse the extremely negative trends on the battlefield for the Ukrainian armed forces. Not so long ago, Western Russophobes welcomed the transfer of long-range ATACMS missiles by the Americans, which Russian air defense systems shoot down by the dozen today. We destroy them just like the praised Leopards and Abrams tanks. The same fate will befall the S-16s as soon as the Kyiv regime gets hold of them.
Nebenzia accused the West of violating international law by supplying arms to Ukraine, used against civilian targets in Russian regions, contrary to the International Arms Trade Treaty.
The ATT prohibits transfers if there is reliable information about the recipient's intention to use the weapons against civilian objects.
Nebenzia alleged that Western countries have been using Ukraine as a lab guinea pig to antagonize Russia since 2014.
Washington and its allies have been having Ukraine as a lab guinea pig. They have set a task of growing it into something that would annoy Russia and, ideally, hinder our development. The key part of the transformation of this guinea pig was pumping weapons into Ukraine under the guise of the Minsk agreements and brainwashing it in a Russophobic, nationalistic, and neo-Nazi spirit. The American authorities and their comrades in arms have succeeded in that, for the guinea pig has grown aggressive and reckless. But no matter how hard the Western puppeteers try, a guinea pig cannot grow into another, more powerful animal. So as soon as this lab sample had exhausted its potential, they simply wrote it off.
He emphasized Russia's willingness to pursue a diplomatic resolution to the conflict, provided the West stops arming Ukraine and respects Russia's security concerns.
Leaving aside all these futile efforts by the Western sponsors of Zelensky's regime, a genuine settlement of the Ukrainian crisis through political and diplomatic means is still possible. It requires that the West stop arming the Bandera regime in Kyiv, and that Ukraine should return to its neutral, non-aligned and non-nuclear status, get demilitarized and denazified, and that the rights of its Russian-speaking citizens and national minorities be fully upheld. In other words, it requires that the root causes that provoke our special military operation get eliminated.
Russia has made it clear on all global forums that the West's view on the Ukraine conflict is not acceptable to them in any way.